What's happening, people? It's the homie Smitster 400 coming at you straight off the Ave, and this is Smitster Reacts. Yeah. As always, you know how we do, man. Salute to all the subscribers, wherever you at, all around the world, new and old. And if you made it to this video, go ahead, give us a like, subscribe, baby. Join the team. Tap in. Look, gotta salute Zenfi, Dubbins, Sosa, straight off the FM. You know what it is. So look, man, first and foremost, I hope y'all having a great day, great evening, whatever time of the day you watching this. I hope you doing good. I hope your family is straight. I hope you living prosperous. You feel me? I hope you keep gratitude first, you know what I'm saying, and everything you're doing. And yeah, just living a positive life with good vibes only. So what the video is that I'm finna react to is meet the Westside Piru gang members Kendrick Lamar grew up with. Now, look, I know people like to make it seem like Kendrick is soft, you know what I'm saying? He's just a little dude, you know, Drake try to play him, you feel me? And their little, you know, beef and all that ish like that. But look, the homie Kendrick definitely comes from the trenches. Good Kid, Mad City, one of the dopest albums ever released. Drop a bomb for that. And he just killed it with the GNX ish, you know what I'm saying? Put on for the West Coast. Salute to that. So look, without further ado, man, we finna get into this content. You know what I'm saying? Tap in. You know what it is. Let's get to it. Shout out to Trap Pulse too, man. Shout out to Trap Pulse. Let's go.
My pops was still, you know what I mean, bumping his head too, but at the same time, he always had so much of a love for me. He gave me the wisdom in the game to say, you know what, I did that. Don't do that. Sometimes he can stop it. Sometimes he couldn't, because I still had my friends surrounding me in the community. And each block in Compton is a gang.
This is Little L, who's one of Kendrick Lamar's best friends, who he grew up with, who's also a Piru gang member, is otherwise known as the Bloods.
Hey, you want to know a crazy thing about Kendrick, bro? My first encounter with him, he thought I was somebody else, bro. He low-key tried to press me.
Who?
Kendrick Lamar. I guess he jumped him back in the day. And I came to the studio, and he was mad. He was like, hey, you from Almond Block? And I was like, nah, but he was hot.
The phrase "good kid in a mad city" is often used to describe Kendrick, painting the image of someone who is calm in the middle of chaos, untouched by everything going on around him. But that's not the full truth.
I don't think they really understand the story all the way. As far as I put out there, I'm just the good kid in the mad city. You know what I mean? I put out the positive out there, but they don't know the negatives I had to go through yet. Kendrick,
like any other kid growing up there, had his friends, his homies, and he took part in some of the same reckless things kids growing up in that environment did.
And that's normally how I go when you in the hood, bro. Like, your association, I tell my son this the whole time. Like, I tell him this a lot. Like, look, your association has a lot to do with your outcome, you know what I'm saying? People going to view you based off your association and how you carry yourself. And that's just how I go when you're in the hood. Like, I dealt with it. Shoot, a lot of my homies was definitely on that type time. So I definitely relate to the whole good kid, mad city thing. It don't mean that you was just a good kid. You was just being, you know, goody two-shoes all the time. It mean that, you know, you had morals, and, you know, sometimes you may have to go against them hoes when you was out there with your homies, because the homies going, you know what I'm saying? You know how it is. Let's go.
Far from being just a good kid. Let's get into it. Compton, the new beginning that wasn't. So the whole idea that you've got to be officially jumped into a gang before you deal with violence or life-threatening situations is a joke. The truth is, even if Kendrick never threw up a set or officially claimed a flag, it didn't mean he wasn't neck-deep in the chaos of Compton. The environment alone shaped him. We all know Kendrick grew up in Compton, right in the middle of Piru territory, a neighborhood drenched in gang culture and violence. His father had actually moved the family there after Kendrick's mom gave him an ultimatum. Either leave the streets behind or lose her. He thought Compton would give them a fresh start, a chance to raise their kids away from the worst of Chicago. But Compton turned out to be just as wild, if not worse. It was a city where danger was baked into the pavement, and no matter how much his parents tried to protect him, the reality of gang life was unavoidable.
That's another thing. People think because you move from your hood, you go to another city, it's just another hood. You know what I'm saying? That is be wild, but it's the real deal.
Death, loss, and trauma weren't exceptions. They were constants. Kendrick got his first taste of that at just 5 years old. Right outside his apartment, he watched his first murder go down. A teenage dealer was posted up, hustling his product, when a car crept up slow. One shotgun blast to the chest and the kid was gone. Kendrick saw everything. Years later, he told NPR that moment flipped a switch in him. He said, "It's done something to me right then and there. It let me know that this is not only something that I'm looking at, but it's something that maybe I have to get used to." And that wasn't even the end of it. 3 years later, when he was just 8, he saw it again. He was walking home from McNair Elementary, just a regular school day, when shots rang out at Tam's Burgers, right on Central and East Rosecrans. A man got smoked in the drive-thru, broad daylight. Kendrick was there, and he took it all in. After that, he admitted, he just started to get numb. Seeing bodies drop became background noise in his world. By the time he hit his teenage years, Kendrick wasn't just a witness anymore. He was feeling the pull of the streets himself. His pops could see it happening. He saw the company Kendrick was keeping, the directions he was leaning toward, and he had to sit his son down for a real talk.
That's sadly something that's a real reality in hoods all across the world. We become numb to the violence. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just an everyday thing. You hear the shots, it's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Unless they like in real close vicinity to you, you're not dropping. You just hear them Jones like, oh, there they go again. Sad, but we all, you know what I'm saying? Those of us who know, it just is what it is, bro. What can you do?
Kendrick remembers his father telling him straight up, "I don't want you to be like me." At the time, Kendrick didn't fully understand what his dad was trying to say, but looking back, it was clear. His father was a street dude himself, someone who knew the game, knew the costs, and didn't want to see his son trapped in the same cycle.
But my pops wasn't as righteous. My pops was still, bumping his head too. But at the same time, he always had so much of a love for me. He gave me the wisdom in the game to say, you know what, I did that, don't do that.
His dad did what he could, sharing his own mistakes, warning Kendrick not to repeat them, trying to steer him away from that destructive path. But it wasn't that simple. The streets have a gravity of their own, and no matter how much love or wisdom you pour into your kid, if all his friends are already knee-deep in it, chances are he's getting pulled too. Kendrick has admitted that was one of the hardest parts. His father couldn't protect him from the influence of his friends.
Sometimes he could stop it, sometimes he couldn't, because I still had my friends surrounding me in the community, and each block in Compton is a gang.
The friends who shaped him. And speaking of those friends, they were just side characters. They were family, a crew of kids trying to make sense of life in the same war zone. They ran the same blocks, faced the same dangers, and carried the same scars. Their stories are stitched into Kendrick's, and understanding them is key to understanding him. Lil L. Out of all the people who came up alongside Kendrick, nobody captures the mix of pain, loyalty, and redemption more than Lil L. If you've ever seen the Noisy Bompton documentary with Kendrick, you already know his story. It's raw, unpolished, and straight out of Compton's cycle. L was Westside Piru, one of Kendrick's day one homies, a kid he'd known since elementary
If you ain't see it, go check that out. Shout out to Noisy.
school. But like so many others in that neighborhood, his life was heavy with a weight of circumstances he didn't choose.
This is Little L, who's one of Kendrick Lamar's best friends, who he grew up with, who's also a Piru gang member, is otherwise known as the Bloods.
L grew up watching his mom wrestle with a crack addiction, something that ate entire families alive during the 80s and 90s. He bounced in and out of jail for years, caught in the loop that seems almost designed to trap young black men in cities like Compton. By the time most people his age were building careers, L was fighting just to stay free. But here's where the story shifts. Kendrick never saw his own success as just his. He's always carried his people with him, always believed that escaping the hood only mattered if you could reach back and pull somebody else out. For Lil L, that loyalty turned into a lifeline. When L came home from prison in 2019, Kendrick didn't just hand him a couple of dollars or shout him out in a verse. He gave him something real, opportunity. L started working with PG Lang, Kendrick's company, and on top of that, Kendrick's been putting him through school, preparing him for an executive role waiting for him once he's finished. He's become that kid who grew up in gang culture and is now being groomed for a suited-type position in a creative empire.
Right now, he putting me through executive school and shit. It ain't nothing to play. I gotta stay 100% focused.
But of course, transformation isn't easy. Even L admits that shifting from the unpredictable code of the streets to the structure of the corporate world means unlearning years of survival habits. I gotta stay 100% focused, he said in an interview. I gotta double down on a lot of ish that I do normally every day. Since coming home, he's already stacked up milestones most people from his block never touch. He got his passport, went on tour with Kendrick, and started carving out his own lane in music with his group, The Bad Fellas.
Kendrick and Dave be on my about going to the hood, and it's like, they don't want to in jail, so I understand what they saying. I be in 5-star hotels with them, going to the studios with them out of town.
It's more than just personal growth. Lil L is living proof of Kendrick's philosophy. You don't just escape the hood, you bring the homies with you. Chad and Jason Keaton. Then there's the Keaton brothers, Chad and Jason. Their story hits a different kind of nerve. Chad was the little brother of the crew, just 23 years old, and by all accounts, he was doing everything right. No gang ties and no criminal record. Kendrick and his friends saw him as hope, a reminder that maybe not everybody had to walk the same rough path. Jason, his older brother, wasn't so lucky. He was locked up, serving time, but before he went in, he made a request of Kendrick, a simple but heavy one. Watch over my little brother. It was one of those promises you make because you mean it, not realizing how impossible it might be to keep. On Friday, July 12, 2013, that promise came crashing down. Chad was walking near Comstock Street and Parmalee Avenue when a white sedan rolled up. Shots fired. Chad went down, but he didn't die right there. He fought. For 31 long days, he battled in a hospital bed, clinging to life. Kendrick, meanwhile, was away on the Yeezus tour. All he could do was talk to Chad through a video call. That distance, being gone when his boy needed him most, would haunt Kendrick forever. On August 14, 2013, Chad passed away. The investigator said it was the wrong place, wrong time. But for Kendrick, it wasn't that simple.
Chad was a really hard one for Kendrick. It was really hard for him because Chad was like younger than us, like a little bro.
The loss broke him. Survivor's guilt crushed him, and instead of hiding it, he poured it into his music. On To Pimp a Butterfly, the track You is basically Kendrick screaming his pain into the mic. Angry at himself, he lashes out over failing Chad. He raps about leaving Compton, leaving his people, about promising Jason he'd look after Chad, and then Chad dying anyway. A friend never leave Compton for profit or leave his best friend little brother. You thought he would recover well. The surgery couldn't stop the bleeding for real. Then he died. God himself will say, you effing failed. While Kendrick was bleeding into the booth, Jason was stuck behind bars, grieving his little brother with no way to let it out.
That's deep, man. Condolences to that man. Seriously.
But through pen and paper, he started writing, turning his pain into 2 books he finished while incarcerated. It wasn't the first time his voice showed up in Kendrick's work either. Back on the Kendrick Lamar EP, there's a track called Uncle Bobby and Jason Keaton, where Kendrick reads one of Jason's letters from prison. The lyrics are a snapshot of that reality. Cold cells, no mail, weeks turning into months. Kendrick gave his friend's words a platform. Even years later, Kendrick kept Jason's name alive. During a performance on Saturday Night Live, he shouted out Jason's prison writings, making sure his story wasn't buried. G-Weed, Weeder. Every hood has those legends, the big homies who carry weight, not just because they're feared, but because they've got brains and presence. For Kendrick, one of those figures was G-Weed. He was Campanella Park Piru, a man who moved with respect and connections that stretched way beyond the city limits. In the early 2000s, while a lot of local cats were still trying to hustle on the block, G-Weed was playing a bigger game. He was connected to the Black Mafia family, or BMF, the infamous drug organization that had Atlanta on lock during its peak. That affiliation gave him access and influence that reached both the streets and the music industry. What made G-Weed unique was his ability to straddle both worlds. On one hand, he was still deeply rooted in the streets, the kind of guy who could get anything done if you needed it. On the other hand, he was transitioning, becoming a bridge between the grind of Compton's street life and the rise of Top Dog Entertainment, or TDE, the independent label that would eventually launch Kendrick into superstardom. G-Weed was the type of figure who could vouch for you in the hood and also get you in the right room in the industry, but the streets never really let go. In May 2017, while in Atlanta, G Weed's past caught up to him. He was shot in the head in what many believed was connected to his old life. Miraculously, he survived, spending a month in the hospital before returning to California. But if the bullets didn't stop him, the feds were waiting too. Just a month later, in June 2017, he was indicted for distributing meth in Columbia, Missouri. The case stuck. In March 2019, he was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. He's still serving that time today. Dave Free. Not every story from Kendrick's circle ends in tragedy, though. If G Weed represented the weight of the streets, Dave Free is proof of what happens when partnership, vision, and timing come together. Born David Friley, he met Kendrick back in 10th grade at Centennial High, right in the heart of Blood territory. Free was already known around school as DJ, the kind of kid who was always messing with beats and equipment. One day, he heard Kendrick freestyle during a lunchroom battle. That moment lit the spark.
Me and Kendrick go back, man, since the beginning of 10th grade. I was like the local DJ at my school, and I used to have these rap battles during like lunch. And I remember he had this line, he was like, I ship keys like a piano, like a grand piano or something like that. And I just thought that was the most amazing line for somebody his age.
Free set up a makeshift studio in his bedroom, a microphone covered with a sock to cut down the static, and the two started recording. That garage setup was the seed of what would become a multi-million-dollar career.
We had the little sock over the microphone. Did a bunch of freestyles.
Yo, the sock over the microphone, bro. The bandana over the microphone. Rapping in the in one of the ears of the headphone, man. The early come-ups, bro. We done all had some early come-ups. That's wild. Cause you gotta have a soundproof. You feel me? If you ain't got one of these Jones, you ain't gotta. You feel me? Then the sock is the next best thing. You feel me? And make it a thick one. Yeah.
Gave it to his brother that was producing at the time. Built something more than just, people working together. Built a friendship, built a brotherhood over the years. And that's been about 8 years, almost a decade now.
Dave wasn't just another homie hanging around. He had vision. While working as a computer technician, he used his job to get one of Kendrick's mixtapes into the hands of Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, the founder of TDE. That move changed everything. Kendrick got his deal, and Free officially became part of the team. From there, Dave climbed the ladder. He went from engineer to co-president of TDE, running the label alongside Terrence Punch Henderson. But his biggest role wasn't corporate. It was creative. He and Kendrick formed the directing duo The Little Homies, masterminds behind the cinematic, symbolic, and thought-provoking visuals that made Kendrick's videos stand apart from everyone else's. By 2019, Dave left TDE to co-found PG Lang with Kendrick, a company they described as multilingual at-service platform that blended music, film, and art. Their bond was put on public trial in 2024 during Kendrick's high-profile feud with Drake. Drake tried to stir the pot, suggesting Free had secretly fathered one of Kendrick's children. Instead of releasing a press statement, Kendrick and Dave responded with art. Dave not only showed up in the Not Like Us video, but the credits sealed it, directed by Dave Free and Kendrick Lamar. That was their way of saying, this brotherhood is still intact, stronger than ever. The same duo that started with sock over a mic was now running one of the most creative empires in hip-hop. The Inner Circle, Mingo, Turtle, and Matt Jeezy. Beyond the big names, the executives, and the industry moves, there's another layer to Kendrick's world, the Inner Circle. These are the friends who represent the roots, the ones who are still right there when he goes back home. Take Mingo and Turtle. Whenever Kendrick pulls up to Tam's Burgers, you'll usually find them there waiting. In a Rolling Stone profile, Mingo was described as a Compton-born sweetheart who is roughly the size of the truck Kendrick arrived in. He's a massive dude but with a warm presence, so much so that Kendrick jokingly calls him his bodyguard. Turtle, meanwhile, is another staple of the block, part of that fabric of day one friends who keep the connection to home alive. Then there's Matt Jeezy. Unlike some of the others, his bond with Kendrick wasn't forged through gang ties or street activity. It came from being outsiders in a world where not being affiliated was its own risk. They met at McNair Elementary, both kids who loved basketball more than banging. And because they weren't big bad gangstas, they got picked on. But instead of breaking them, That shared vulnerability drew them closer. Their friendship became its own form of armor, proof that loyalty could be built on something other than colors or codes. The myth of the good kid. Now, a lot of fans point out how lucky it is that Kendrick didn't end up the way the streets usually shape so many kids, either dead or locked up. But the truth is, unlike most of his friends, he had something solid at home. He had a father who was present, guiding him, trying to steer him in the right direction. He had a mother who avoided the grip of addiction, something that wiped out entire families in Compton. That foundation gave him stability, but it didn't mean he stayed away from trouble.
It's crazy because I always go back to the story that I was probably the only one in America probably with an actual active father in his life. I don't know. Well, at least in Compton, what they didn't have, what I had was somebody say, "All right, you bumped your head. Now you see what happened? You in back of a police car. See what happened? You at the station." Nobody was telling them that. So they'll keep doing it over and over again.
As a teenager, Kendrick rolled with his homies and did the same things they did. They smoked, they drank, they got into fights. Sometimes it was petty crime, sometimes it was serious. He fought with rival neighborhoods, and for a stretch, he was even banging the set. The stories told in Good Kid, Mad City weren't fictionalized. They actually happened to him.
Sing About Me is definitely a true song. My partner talking to me, speaking on the story how I was there, when his brother passed, and I got to watch him take his last breath, respecting I was down for his brother no matter how much they called him a delinquent. And if I happen to pass before your album drop, I want you to tell this story. Sing about me. Make sure you sing about me. And he definitely passed too.
When he was 15, for example, he got stomped out, jumped by a group of dudes. And that wasn't even the only time. Getting packed out like that was almost a rite of passage in Compton. It just came with the territory. One of the most vivid stories from that time comes from his childhood friend Antonio, better known as Cannon, who Kendrick started rapping with. Cannon recalled the day the two of them were walking together when out of nowhere, a group of dudes ran up on them. Before Cannon even knew what was happening, he was hit in the back of his head, and suddenly it was on.
We were walking to the swap meet to get some t-shirts or whatever, and these dudes were like, "Hey, where you from?" And I just walked out. Kendrick was walking with me. And then I just felt knuckles go bah, hit me in the back of the head. Kendrick was like, "Hey!" And he fighting with like two dudes. I don't know what came over us. We turned into like wild Tasmanian devils or something.
Outnumbered 2-4, both Kendrick and Cannon expected.
But you gotta do that. What you gonna do? Just, you know what I'm saying? You gotta fight. Like, yeah, salute to them for that. Shoot. That's some wild-ish, man. Younger days, man. Give me memories. Let's go.
To get worked, but something else kicked in. Adrenaline took over, and they ended up beating down all four guys. Looking back, Cannon said it wasn't about bravado, it was survival. They weren't about to just let themselves get bullied.
We was able to beat up four dudes with just two of us, and we both short.
That's what I'm talking about.
That just had us like, y'all.
You can't just sit there and not do shit. You feel me? Of course, you're gonna turn up and be Tasmanian devils. Yeah, hell yeah.
Not about to just pick on us and beat us up. Like, nah, that's not happening.
Exactly.
Moments like that made Kendrick realize two things at once. One, that he was capable of surviving in that environment, but two, that survival came at a cost. He started to notice the consequences stacking up around him. One story he shared years later stuck with him forever. He remembered picking up his best friend Lil L and trying to convince him to come to the studio. Kendrick begged him to leave the streets for just a few hours to come create something instead. But Lil L waved him off, saying he had to put in work. Hours later, L got arrested. The realization hit Kendrick like a brick. If he hadn't been in the studio that night, he would have been with L doing the same thing, probably facing the same charges. That was one of those fork-in-the-road moments that separated their paths. Still, Kendrick wasn't immune. In a 2011 interview, he admitted he came close to being sent to prison himself. He'd been arrested, he'd had violent encounters with police, and for a while he was caught in that cycle like everyone else. To this day, he avoids digging too deeply into those stories in public. He knows how people fixate on negativity, how they glorify the street life, and he refuses to feed into that. Instead, he's focused on turning his experience into something bigger. Kendrick sees himself as a voice of change, someone who can show a different path while still acknowledging the darkness he carries inside. That darkness shows up in his music, in the way he writes about temptation, guilt, and violence. It's a side of him he tries to keep hidden from the public, the hot-headed alter ego that his partner Dave Free once called Kendrick's shadow self. In a 2022 W magazine interview, Dave talked about that side of him. He said there were moments when Kendrick, the poet, the thinker, the artist, would disappear, and out would come the protective, defensive Kendrick, the one willing to get active if it meant protecting himself or his family. It was a reminder that no matter how far he's come, that side of him is still there. But through it all, Kendrick made a choice. He chose to rise above, even when so many of his friends never got that chance. Some died, some went to prison, some never made it out the cycle. That's why Kendrick refuses to romanticize the streets. He's seen firsthand what they take away.
From Compton, I could have easily came out and said, I did this, I did that. I done killed a whole bunch of niggas out in front of just giving off fact. But that ain't me. I'd rather talk about my reality. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather talk about something a little bit more deeper than that. The reasons and the problem and the solutions behind it.
For him, success has never been about leaving his past behind. It's about honoring it by giving back. Every time he uplifts someone from his neighborhood, every time he provides opportunities for his friends to transition into something better, he's fulfilling a mission. Because Kendrick knows he was lucky. He had parents who loved him, a talent that gave him an escape route, and the awareness to take it. And because of all the people he's lost along the way, he's made it a priority to make sure that the ones still here have a shot too.
Look, man. Salute to Trap Pulse. Go over there, tap in, subscribe. Look, man, I relate to Kendrick in so many ways, bro, because I came up the same way. Like, I had my pops every other weekend type ish. You feel me? Plus, he was Jehovah's Witness, so he's, you know what I'm saying, he got rules and things. Then I come up with my mom. She's strict with the church. You feel me? You know, AME. But, you know, when I go outside, I'm with the homies. And whatever the homies is on, I'm on. You feel me? And things happen when, you know, that's how you come up. You feel me? And, like, again, no record by the grace of Jah. You feel me? Salute to that. You know, just always knew how to move. Always, you know, plus I had big homies that would tell me, you know, hit the studio. You feel me? Focus on music. You know, focus on basketball. I used to play ball. You feel me? Still got a jumper. Wet with it. But look, I relate totally to Kendrick, his situation, his homies, his affiliations, all that. Like, I mean, look, bruh, I ain't trying to get too deep, but the same way he said that if he would have been with such and such, that was like a fork in the road type situation. I have a relative that I had a situation where we was about to do some things together. He was about to fly me to, you know, I was about to go link up with him. And, you know, fast forward, things went how they went. And I could have been there, bro, because I would have definitely held it down, you know. But look, Kendrick continues to keep his people around. That's one of the realest things about him. I, you know, can definitely appreciate that. I keep my day ones around me. I don't really like to be around new people. You feel me? So again, super relatable, bro. Dope content. Salute the Trap Pulse. Go tap in with them. If you made it to this point in the video, go ahead, give us a like and subscribe, man. Salute to all the subscribers. Tap in for the live streams. If you missed the live streams, don't worry, because we're gonna be clipping it, putting individual videos out as usual. You feel me? That's how we rock. And yeah, it's the homie Smitster 400. This has been Smitster Reacts. Peace and love wherever y'all at, all around the world. I'm out. Owie.